Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh. I'm Kristen Lopez. I'm an entertainment journalist and author, and I am so excited to get to be talking to the amazing cast and creative team of A Different Man, which I hope everybody loved as much as I did.
By the way, Aaron thinks you guys clap at all the movies, so I said that's not true.
Just to go down the line really quick, we have director and writer Aaron Schimberg. Our Oswald, played by Adam Pearson. And Edward, played by Sebastian. Go back to the beginning with you really quick. I know that you've talked about, you and Adam have a bit of a shorthand. You worked together before on the film Chained for Life. How did this story come about? Where did you get the inspiration for it?
It really came from a bunch of different places. One was a desire to work with Adam again, and to he played a shy character in my last film, and Adam's not very shy at all. So I wanted to, and people assumed that he was shy because he played a shy person in my movie, and he played a shy person in Under the Skin. So I wanted to sort of show off his range. So I had that in the back of my head. I had a sort of identity crisis. I was sort of going through an identity crisis, having met somebody who changed their personality from shy to sort of assertive, maybe even aggressive, and I was sort of dealing with they took a course in order to change their, to become more assertive, and I liked them less after they became more assertive, but I was proud of them and for doing what she had to do, and but I wondered, how could I do that, and should I do that, and what would that mean if I did do that? And I had a lot of questions about that. I had another thing that was too convoluted to talk about, and it's not that interesting. But I put all these things together, and eventually out came A Different Man.
That is amazing. Adam, what enticed you to want to do it? Is it just as simple as Aaron saying, this is the movie, show him on Tuesday?
Well, so after Change for Life did the circuit and did its thing, Aaron was like, would you work with me again? And I already had a lot of admiration and respect for Aaron as a writer and a director. He's uncompromising, unthinking, and very much willing to live or die by his own sword, but also just loved him as a bloke at that point. We become quite good friends, so I had no problem pulling the trigger, being like, ding ding, round two. And he sent me the script and I loved it. I was like, cool, we're doing Kaufman, like rock and roll. And then further down the line, we signed that we're going to be working with the human highlight reel, the acquisition ever present but never messing Sebastian Stan. And then, and fast forward 2 years later, here we are in Los Angeles.
Sebastian, what enticed you to want to do this movie? Because some actors would say no very quickly.
No, I was the opposite. I remember reading it and just going on the ride and the journey of in this film and feeling so surprised and kind of like knocked out by what was coming next, and really never predicting ever what was going to come next. Every scene, usually when you're reading a lot of scripts and stuff, you get very good at kind of telling what the scene serves, and there's a moment later it justifies. But in this one, every scene sort of seemed to stand on its own and had all these great other characters, like in a Robert Altman movie, where they all seem to have a continuous life even after you don't see them again. And it was very New York and very authentic in a lot of ways. And then it spoke about, I think, what feels to be a universal theme now in terms of identity and losing yourself, and how far you can go to deny who you are.
I know you've talked about, and it's kind of gone viral in other articles about, you know, wearing the makeup and going out and interacting. Can you talk a little bit about that, what getting into character?
Yeah, well, it came largely out of Mike Marino, who did The Penguin and many other great things, and he had another job at the time. He was doing The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but he still loved this a lot and wanted to take this on, except he said, I'm the only one that can do it. I want to be able to do it. So sometimes I would go to his studio. Our call times would be later, but his call time on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was a lot earlier. So I would go to his studio at 5 in the morning. He would get me ready before he had to go to the other show, and then I still had about 4 hours to myself as Edward before I'd have to be to set. I'd have to go to set, so then I would just kind of use that time to walk around the city with a friend. And yeah, I mean, it's been confirmed to me that once again, people don't lie very well in the real world. I mean, everyone acts and puts on a thing, but I could instantly feel firsthand sort of the kind of uncomfortability or the reactions or the sort of all of the above, and that really, that time started to really kind of inform a lot of things for me. Obviously, it was very isolating from a perspective and uncomfortable, and you sort of feel powerless in various ways, but also just physically. You know, suddenly you don't want to make eye contact. You don't want, and those conversations with Aaron that we had been talking about, sort of Edward and some of the things that, for instance, you know, he had, like, he couldn't really make eye contact. So I was leading into that too, but yeah, I think it's very important for me.
Yeah, Aaron, I think what I love about the script, and we've talked about this, is the relatability of it. You know, that scene where the guy just randomly waves at Edward, or the training video. Can you talk a little bit about where you took inspiration for some of these, what we would call tropes and stereotypes that have kind of permeated disabled interaction for millennia?
I mean, a lot of it is just personal. You know, I have a cleft palate, and so I was just taking my experiences, some from the real world, and and then I also had to deal with films about the subject, which I've often found, you know, reductive at best, or you know, that perpetuate their own stereotypes. So I was sort of had to come from both angles, like my own experience, but also combating or at least circumventing these tropes, because I think you expect them in a film, and I had to sort of work around them. So that became part of I think just the fact that I put it on a play about this really came from creating some distance from that kind of portrayal, and so that I could show a new way, I guess. So. It really, a lot of this just came from things that happened. I mean, knocking on the window, waving at me, you know, it certainly happened to me, and it may have nothing to do with having a cleft palate, but these things happen, and you start to wonder, you know, why is everyone doing this to me? And so I just, you know, and I think that paranoia, you know, of not knowing is this directed at me because I'm different, or because, you know, I'm less than other people, or is this somebody being an asshole? And you don't know, but you sort of, it creates a certain mindset, and that's the sort of mindset that I wanted to give Edward, and that sort of paranoia throughout the movie.
Adam, I want to give the same question to you, because I think what I love about Oswald is, on the surface, he could fall into that stereotype of being the overly ingratiating, overly skilled, overcompensating depiction, and yet there's such nuance in there. How did you want to portray Oswald? How did you go about finding him?
Well, I try not to get too much in my own head when it comes to quote finding a character. I think you read what's like on the script, you figure out how that bounces off the other characters that are in the film and in the scene, and you go from there, and you turn up every day with your A game, like locked and good to go. And yeah, I also wanted to like avoid sort of like the tropes, and that's what I liked about the character. He just gracefully marches into the film without any like unnecessary like backstory or tragedy or circumvention of whatever tropes one wants to throw out there, be it the victim, the villain, or the false hero. And just how kind of when it was written, how incidental Oswald becomes in the film. And further down the line, is he in the right place at the right time a little too much? Maybe. That's for the audience to decide. Oh, I think I have decided. But yeah, just a really kind of smart role and very different, as I said, to what I've played before. So any chance I can get to flex it on show range, I'll gladly jump on.
You've been called the Eve Harrington of this movie, which I appreciate very much for all of the All About Eve fans out there in the audience. There's so many amazing scenes that I could just sit and deconstruct all day, but I want to kind of go around the room and ask if there was a scene that was particularly challenging or that you're still kind of surprised you were able to pull off. I'll start with Sebastian.
I mean, there were a few, and I don't know if that was the sort of the gun to the head that we had, because it was 22 days, and you felt once you were going to get there, you had max maybe 3-4 takes that we had to get, because again, we're shooting on film, and again, Aaron is wanting to get long takes of things, and we're finding daylight as well. But I think all of the theater stuff was really tricky and difficult emotionally and so on. And I was always really worried, frankly, about the scene when he goes to the bar and just really coming out of that change. How is that? How are we going to earn that? Really, are you guys going to stick around after that? Because if we didn't get that right, it just I think I didn't really know until we got there and we were able to kind of like piece that whole thing together.
Adam, what about you?
I had that from the fight scene marked on my calendar as like a real day of reckoning. As Sebastian said, we're in the theatre, we've got like a real time pressure on us, and there's a lot of moving parts in that scene where the ceiling falls down and the lighting falls on top of that. But also, he's the Winter Soldier, and I'm 5'6". I'm 5'6" and made of broken dreams and Whataburger. So, yeah.
With one mean courage.
That fight scene is pretty epic and hilarious, and the light coming down is the cherry on the cake. Aaron, what about you? What was the most challenging scene to pull off?
Challenging, I mean, the whole film, it was there's one scene that, this was John Wilkes Booth joke, where everybody finds this joke absolutely hilarious, everyone thinks it's the funniest joke in the movie. And I swear, on my script, that I was using the whole time, I wrote all over the whole scene, rewrite the scene or you will regret it for the rest of your life. I didn't think it was, I thought this was a meaningless scene, it's not funny, I don't get it. It's like this joke, okay, but like, I was like, it's really about, I need another scene of them together, of Edward and Ingrid together. I need their relationship kind of falling apart. I need to establish that she's rewriting the play, but the dialogue is I don't get it. And then it's everybody's favorite scene, and I don't know. It still astounds me. It is a good scene, but I didn't realize it.
I have to ask about our leading lady, Renata Reinsma, who is not here, and she is so good in a character she is a character that I love and loathe depending on the scene, because she's just got so many flaws and nuances to her. What were you looking for in the leading lady for this movie, especially compared to Chained for Life?
I was looking for anybody that could play the role, and I couldn't think of anybody. I thought this role is not a good role, because anybody I imagined in this role, I thought, it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't work, nobody could do this. And I saw Renata, the worst person in the world, and it occurred to me that she could do it, but she was blowing up at the time, and she was like, having a very big moment. This was right in the middle of that, and I thought, this is a low-budget film, and I'm not even going to say this out loud. So I didn't say anything, and then Sebastian, called me. He said, "Did you see Worst Person in the World?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we gotta get her, let's get her." And I said, "She's not gonna do it. I mean, is it even worth asking?" And he said, "Of course it's worth asking. If you want her, and it should be great." I said, "All right, I'll ask her." Or you ask her. I don't know who asked her, but I was too embarrassed because I just knew. Also, I mean, we were making the film in a matter of weeks. I mean, this all came together in a matter of weeks. And so I was like, even if, we'll send it to her, she'll read it in 8 months. We need somebody now. So, but Sebastian really was, pushed me, and 2 days later, she was in. So it really was 2 days later, and she saved the part. I mean, she's brilliant, and I really credit her with creating all these layers to this character that I didn't think, all these nuances that I just didn't think, they're even beyond what I could have imagined.
Exactly. Adam, Sebastian, I want to extend that question to you, because you both have very different relationships with the character as the film goes on, that's constantly kind of changing. How did you work with her to develop that?
I think Renata Renze just gets it. Like, you turn up to work and she's there just because all our trailers are right next to each other. So I'd rock up every day and she'd always be there just sitting on the steps saying, "Morning!" And we got into this like weird competition as to who could give the most passive aggressive good morning to the other. And towards the end I was like, I can't keep doing this for enough, because at one point it's just going to turn into me yelling at you in the streets of New York. And I can't have that on TMZ. But no, I think she's a delight to work with. She gets it, and she doesn't get enough credit. This is her first English language film. And there's a lot of very long scenes with a lot of dialogue that are done in one take that she got her head around, like, remarkably quickly. And no, she's just a delight to work with. And again, I didn't want to overanalyze anything or get into my own head, and I think scenes and tone just are quite fluid in that they eventually just find their level. And Concerts Professional have nothing but good things to say about that, and I think the film is better for having her in it, and I think this industry is better for having her in it.
I just want to, because it's SAG, and I just want to say, everybody was a delight to work with, and it really, this movie never could have been made. There was no drama. It was just like a family right away. And I really feel like this movie, 22 days, came together in weeks. Like, it's not going to work. We had a few takes. We set up a scene in I wanted to do it in 1 or 2 shots if we could. None of this could have worked if I didn't have actors who were fully game. Sebastian wasn't coming to work 4 hours early, to get the makeup on. And Sebastian also is responsible for us having Mike Marino. I mean, that was his idea, and he made it happen, and everybody was just so great, and so I just wanted to say that.
I think we have time to take 1 or 2 questions, if anybody has one. I think it's right there.
So the makeup work, especially the peeling the face off, I thought that was fantastic and traumatizing. Can you talk a little bit about that process, what it was like?
Well, again, Mike Marino had, I think Aaron and Mike had some conversations about what, there could be, and I think we all agree that there had to be some sort of a few stages if it just jumped, but again, it was a timing thing, and that whole sequence was filmed in one one day. It was Friday.
One take for the,
Oh yeah, one take for that.
there's 2 cameras for two
Two
shots.
cameras, and he also, I think he had one more. So if we hadn't gotten, because but that whole sequence, it's funny. We kept joking like about it being sort of an independent film because somehow we lucked out to be able to have, I think, 2 hours where you just kept filming me around the apartment. I mean, you only see pieces of it, but there was a whole thing that I got to live through in stages of that, and it really informed how I was walking out of that building. But again, it wouldn't have worked if we didn't have Mike Marino, and again, everything here there's no, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, there's no CGI, there's no computer, there's no AI, there's nothing. Like, even in the murder scene, there was a man sitting on a cab, waiting to smoke a cigarette, all the way in the back, like, sitting there with like a gallon of blood, waiting to pump this thing in a clear sort of tube that was connected to the physical therapist behind, through his costume, coming in here so that he could just hit it at the right time, that he cued him and the blood would spurt. The knife, like, was one of those knives that you, like, it goes in itself and out. It was retractable. and like, we basically had like just 2 hours to get that thing. It was all in one take, and then that's the whole thing where, again, sometimes pressure is your best friend. We did it the first time, and either camera was too slow or it was like it pulled too quickly, so it didn't work. Then we said, okay, we have one more, because there was a giant setup every time, right, with the blood and everything, cleaning everything up, changing it. So that took a lot of time to set up. We did it a second time, and we went to the monitor. We're like, I think that worked. And then we were like, actually, the boom was in. And then, the sound guys just sitting there kind of like, damn it. And then you were like, fuck it, we'll go with it, we'll just leave it. And I was like, let's just do one more. And then that's the one that ended up in the movie. And like, at one point, I'm like, we're doing it, and we're like going down, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna fall and be out of the shot. And then we came back up. and that was the take that we used. But like, at the end of it, it was not just actors. Like, it was camera, sound, everybody was like, yeah! It was a great heart. But that's the beauty sometimes of just like having the involvement of everybody. Everyone's alive, it's not someone's behind a computer just waiting to, anyway, so.
For Adam and Sebastian, this nuanced, layered performance that you both gave, it's very interesting because you both have these super egos. Like, you have evolved into what you felt you wanted to be. He is where you were, but he has this super ego that's so huge. And then you would think, as the audience member, you've gotten to where you want to be, and then you see that you really miss being who you were. Did you two get a chance, because you had 22 days, to sit and actually talk, because it's so nuanced and layered, and it's beautiful to see how you're looking at him now, you're jealous of him, but you wanted to be who you are, and then he is completely, he has this super ego, he's so comfortable in his skin, and it's almost like you hate that you become this. So, I think that was just beautiful to watch. Like, as an actor, how did you?
We had a couple of really deep and meaningful on Zoom before we started shooting to better inform the knowledge and maybe a bit of character work as well. And so we hopped on Zoom, and I told Sebastian about sort of like my upbringing with disfigurement and what have you, the good times and the bad times and the really bad times. Because I think unless we as actors are unwilling to be emotionally honest with one another, and to have that unflinching visceral honesty translate to the screen. If we aren't willing to do that, we have absolutely no right to ask an audience to do the same. when they come and see our work. So we hopped on Zoom and we had those chats, and so there was a bit of learning there. And Sebastian, to his own credit, went away and did a lot of research, kind of off his own back. And I also think you learn a lot by osmosis, just being around other actors and being around the industry. And I've been very fortunate on this film where I got to hang around with two people who do this like way better than I do. And I always say to young people who want to get into any industry, be it TV, film, music, yeah, cool. Find people who are already doing it to the level you want to, and just bother them. Just get in their way. Because the worst thing that happens is they call you a dickhead, and you know that already. But you've got nothing in that sort of like interaction. But no, we had a lot of very long, important conversations, and that was a good foundation to work from. But then after that, as I said earlier, you come to work and you bring your A game.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, you know, Adam's incredibly candid, open, very generous, and he's very game to go anywhere. I mean, I never, and I think that's what you want in a partner. I have continuously learned as an actor that like any single time I have ever tried to push like my idea of what's to happen, the night before I sat at home and I was like, I planned it all out and everything, like it never ever is as interesting or as good as potentially like what can come off of your partner. And in the moment, and then trying to stay available to that. It also helps to have a really good script, and again, there's no improv in the movie. There's no improv. I think every comma and period was written by Aaron, and very specifically, and there's a musicality to it. It's like a piece of music, and if you hit the notes, you are going to be coming across differently than your usual tropes, because you by yourself is more limiting than like what the rest of the people can bring out of you. So, but I think that was just us being able to tell each other that we should be able to be committed as we can to the moment and to the scene, and not ever judge it or try to be funny or whatever, you know, or sad, you know.
I think we're out of time, unfortunately. So we'll do a final round of applause for these amazing guys. And allow everybody up here to exit the theater. That would be great.